Okay, so I've got my placket, which is going onto my sleeve. So the sleeve that I'm working with is the right hand side, so the right side of the body. So what I need to do first is put all my markings onto my sleeve, onto my placket even. So I'm just marking where everything is. So I am going to be pressing in a minute, so it would probably be better to use a different way of marking up if you're using the friction pens, whatever they're called, because you will be pressing. It might not be a good idea. So transfer all your information across. So in at the line at the top, closer, not farther away. In at the line at the top, so here you need to cut into and up to the line. So you can see there where I've cut it, and you need to do the same on your fabric. So I've interlined this just to stiffen it up slightly. Now I've not interlined a placket before, so I'm trying it out this time just to see if it makes any difference. Just lower that down a little bit. So that's all my parts laid in, and so I'm going to give it a press now. So I'm pressing back certain sections ready to get the placket ready to go on. So I'm going to press the seam allowance of either side back. So that's the outer edges. And I'm going to try really hard just to catch the line and not the rest of the pen. And so the other side as well. Let's just zoom out a little bit more so I'm not going off the screen. And then I am going to fold in this top section and give that a press. Just going to cut right up to that line. So I've got those three outer edges sewn together, and then I'm going to be folding in the point at the top. So the inner edge has gone in, and I'm going to fold it over to make like a square. So I'm bringing the top corner down to my fold. And I'm going to press that in place. So if you've got a fabric that's quite nice, like presses quite nice, that always comes in handy, especially at this point of a placket. So now I've got that side down, I'm going to press and fold the other side down. So I'm pressing in. I think I did that a bit quick, that's why I'm just doing it again. So I'm pressing in one diagonal. I'm going to do the same to catch the other side. So I'm bringing that top point now back down, which should now give me a point on the top. Now, if it pops back open, it's all right because you've still got that guide in there, that guide fold. So the next step after we've pressed those pieces back is to stitch, so to mark up and to stitch it on the sleeve. So I'm going to put that to one side for a second and get my sleeve. So I'm working on the sleeve that's going to go in onto my right arm, and I've got the wrong side facing up. Now it depends on where you want your placket. What I've done, I've measured from the edge of where I do want my placket to go, and right from the outer edge, so I've got a seam allowance which is 1 centimetre, and then I've measured up, so it's 6.5 centimetres from the edge of the sleeve where my marker is, and that's where my placket is going to be. So if it was the paper pattern, the marking is where I'm going to cut in and open it out, so it would end up looking like that. Okay, so I'm going to measure up because I want to keep it parallel with that seam edge. Well, it's not quite parallel, it's coming up a little bit more straighter, so you can keep it the same as that edge. It's maybe a bit too far to keep it with the middle finger line, so if you gauge it, you can either go parallel to the edge or bring it up so it's parallel to the edge that it's going into. So I'm going to aim for, where's my pen gone? I'm going to aim for a line. Now, if it's similar to mine, I'll measure it for you. So it's 6.5 at the bottom, and then if I measure up, so the line that I'm stitching on it's going to be 8.5. So if I measure up 8.5, because that's where my line's going to go, I'll just iron the rest off. And then if I measure across again at the same point, it's 8. So it's gone from 6.5 up to 8 if you want to draw the same line in that I'm drawing. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pin my placket to the wrong side. So this is the wrong side of the fabric. And it's going to be the right side of the fabric to the wrong side of the fabric. And what I'm lining up is the line that I'm going to be cutting, which I've just put a dash across. That is going to be lined up on my opening. just going to put a couple of pins in. And then the next step is going to be to stitch that in place all the way around the rectangular shape. So I'm going to flick over to the other camera and stitch that in place. So I'm just using my normal stitch setting again. May, stop shouting, please. So with the sleeve being curved, just forgot to say then, what I've done, I've just brought the placket down slightly, a couple of mils, so that you can see. So I'm getting right onto that point at the top. I'm stopping, leaving my needle in and rotating the fabric around and stitching straight across again then to the next point. Needle in, foot up, rotate around. And then straight down to the bottom. Making sure that there is a back stitch there. So coming back across to my placket, next step is where the rectangular, so I've just stitched the rectangular shape, and now I'm going to cut up the middle and up the triangle into the 2 points. And open that up, and then everything goes through and round to the right side. And so I'm going to flip my sleeve round to the right side. And then I'm going to start to press. I'm pressing my seam allowance into the placket, just making sure that it's all through and neat. Ooh. So I've got my placket, and what I'm going to do, my seam allowance is going into my placket, and I've got my seam allowance which is pressed back, and then I did have a fold line down the middle of that, which is going to bring that folded edge right up to the stitch line of, and cover the stitch line of the, when we've just stitched them. So I'm going to pin that in place because I'm going to be stitching it in 1 second. So I'm gonna top stitch down the edge here now. So if I just flick the camera over, you'll be able to see. So I'm just gonna line up in my machine for an edge stitch, to top stitch, edge stitch. If you've got a particular foot that you like to use, go for that one. And then back stitch at the top. So we've got that side prepped and in. Zoom in so you can see. So that bit is prepped and in, so it's neatened on the wrong side, neatened on the right side. I'll just cut those edges off. And then for the next side, so what I'm going to do is my seam allowance has gone into the placket side. Now I should, looking at this, have a fold line which has come off. So the fold line is straight down the middle. To that edge. And so I'm going to fold that into my seam allowance, and then I'm going to fold that back. So fold my seam allowance into the placket. My folded edge that I pre-pressed, I'm going to bring back to the edge, so where the seam allowance is, and I'm just going to move that one out of the way so I can press it. So I just give that a fold, a press. It's pressed up at the top. And then I'm going to put a couple of pins in to keep it in place, and I'm going to stitch. So I'm taking and I'm pinning all the way up to the top. and all the way up to the point, and then I'm going to stitch all the way round, so all the way straight up and round, catching in that point up at the top, all the way around to the other side, and then down. Probably down to where I've just marked it, which is 1.5 centimeters down from the point. So I'm just going to flick over to the camera and I'm going to stitch that in place, and then this is the last step of the placket. So back stitch at the beginning and the end. If you want to go across with a little box, you can do. I'm going to, because I've missed a little bit of this side. So hopefully it will catch it all in.